Yo, 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 what's up, all you burner stoners and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
About to get wonderful. I have to smoke some of this rotten grape.
That's
for
right.
sure. Grown by our friend Big Earl. And we're smoking out of an 8-decade steamroller. And you can check out 8decades.com if you want to check out all of our gear that Mrs. Weedman put together for us. And it's pretty dope. So check out 8decades.com, everybody. Mrs. Weedman, let's get normal.
Let's get normal.
Hopefully everybody out there smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. We are smoking some rotten grape, like I said. And this is like a 50-50 sativa indica hybrid. It's evenly balanced. Like this name suggests, this bud has a delicious mouth-watering flavor and sweet yet sour grapes. The aroma adds a hint of earthy and spicy pungency to the zesty grape flavor, bringing in a rich sense that anchors the heavy sour overtone. Rotten grapes buds actually look like grapes with thick, round, dark olive green nugs with purple undertones and tiny amber-colored crystal trichomes. This grape high is one of the perfect for kicking back during a lazy afternoon with friends and family, and if you don't need to do a lot to get done, but you still need to be social. The high starts with a euphoric lift that leaves you completely happy, although utterly calm in both mind and body. The sense of calm will slowly take a tingly turn, leaving you feeling buzzy and slightly energized. These effects lend themselves to conversation with friends, bringing a talkative sense and a widened perspective with these effects. So basically, the effects are happy, relaxing, and sociable. Symptoms it relieves is anxiety, chronic pain, depression, insomnia, nausea, and stress. Berry grape flavor. Aromas are diesel, earthy, grape, pungent, sour, and spicy. Ms. Weeman? You smoked this yesterday.
I like it.
You did like it a lot,
Yeah.
you said.
It definitely gives you a really pleasant high without feeling too foggy. So I like it.
Very nice strain.
Very nice.
Well done, big girl.
And it smells as bad as my sense of taste and smell are right now. It smells like purple gum, like bubble gum.
Oh, like Hubba Bubba Grape?
Hubba Bubba Grape.
Remember Hubba Bubba Grape?
Oh my gosh, makes my mouth water.
You blow some big bubbles too when you have bubbles when you have bubble gum.
There's nothing better than being in a car by yourself, music playing, windows cracked, and bubble gum. And you could just chew obnoxiously. You have to be in the car by yourself. Chew obnoxiously, like, go to town, blow some big bubbles, let them pop on your face while you're driving. It's very fun.
I'm forever blowing bubbles. Last night, Succession.
Whew.
We were fucking drilled to that TV. I looked over at you at one point. You were just like, whoa.
We have to wait another week for another episode.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you are not watching this show right now, this last episode was like, holy shit. I mean, people got caught in lies, family like going against one another, coke lines being done, Greg making me laugh. Just, oh my goodness, what a great episode. Here's the thing. I don't know how they're going to end this because it's
I don't know.
right now there's so many different plots going on. One big major plot, but there's so many little ones underlying the whole thing is like, how are they going to end this? And two, I really don't want them to end the show.
Right. Well, it's not going to end forever.
Yeah, this is the last season. I keep on telling you that.
Oh, there's way too much. Maybe there will be spin-offs.
They said, well, I hope so, but they said this is the final season.
I don't know. They got a lot to conclude.
Yes. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, but it was so good. Also, we danced this Saturday like it was 1995.
Oh my gosh, we did. At one point, we were so high and just dancing away. We were right up by the stage, like stage left, totally in our element. I'd look back at Mr. Weedman every once in a while, like I'd realize that I was just like way in my own little world dancing away. And then I'd be like, oh, poor Mr. Weedman, where is he? And I'd turn around and he was doing the same thing. So I'm like, I'm good. Back to dancing. And at one point I kind of looked over to my right and we were not the oldest people there. It was a pretty mixed crowd of ages. Yeah. And I would say the average ages were like 40-ish.
Yeah,
the DJ was actually in her 40s.
Yeah,
so
she was banging.
yeah. And so it wasn't a super young crowd. So I didn't feel like out of sorts in that way. But I looked over at one point and someone younger was looking at me and I was like, oh, I think I was dancing like I was at a 90s rave. I don't think I was dancing for today.
It was really good. The venue
was pretty funny.
The venue was an old church.
It was so cool.
So cool. The old church is like over 100 years old. So dope. But I'm going to tell a little story. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So we're in the middle. We took an edible. We took a half an edible. And then we hit the pen. And I'm not a big fan of distillate pens. It just don't like the taste. It doesn't get me high.
I hit the pen a lot.
You did.
I did.
And I saw, all of a sudden I looked at you and I said, can I have one of the joints I rolled or I packed? And you looked at me like, no, don't do it in here. I'm like, please give me a joint right now. I'm going to light this right here, right now. I smell weed. It's not coming from your pen.
Let me just preface this that it was not a jammed venue. This was kind of like
There's probably about 500
slightly underground event.
Yeah.
And so it was a really nice small venue and a small crowd. It was not jam packed. So I just felt, and I did not smell any cannabis all night long. There was fog machine, there was incense, so a lot of masked odors. There may have been weed going around. I didn't see anybody smoking, and I didn't smell it at all. And then we were kind of in an area where it wasn't very crowded by us. And that's why I was concerned. Because the fire alarm had also already gone off.
Yeah, but that was later in the night.
I know. Okay, so now you wanted to smoke a joint
did.
Indoors.
Yes, and I've done it at many shows.
Yes.
Never thought twice about it. You were like, no, don't do it here. I'm like, let's go outside. I'm like, no, I'm lighting this joint right here. Let's light it right now. We're in the middle of. Just started her set. I want to be zooming, and I want to be feeling good and feeling the vibe of her music being stoned. And I enjoy concerts being stoned because you really hear everything. Everything sounds crisp. The lights get bright, and your body just moves to the beat differently. And you were just so nervous. There's guys over there.
The security kept like standing
there
over
was
by
no
us.
Security.
There were three guys. Well, they had headsets on.
They were producers. They were the producers of the stage
they were
show
sound
and stuff.
guys.
They were sound guys. And I'm like, just give me the joint. You finally gave it to me. I lit it up, and I said, just blow it down. I'm like, just blow it down to the ground. There's so much fog in here. No one's gonna know we're smoking. And I every time I passed it, you passed it back, I would take a big rip and I would just blow it towards the DJ stage because I wanted her to smell it. And so we got baked, and the night was wonderful. We had a lot of fun.
It was super fun.
A lot of laughs, and we were drenched in sweat. Well, I was anyway. And we didn't stop. We danced for 3 hours?
The entire time.
I think we took one break to go get another beer, but that was it. I mean, we were dancing, like I said, like it was 1995.
And we had fun.
Yeah, my old raver moves came out. I did look like I was from 95.
Who were you? You were being the Viking.
Oh, I was doing, yeah. So we stepped back away. It got really, really hot in the place, like really hot. I'm like, I need to go find some like air, and they had the doors open because the air conditioner wasn't really working well, and they had the doors open. So I let's go back by the doors because you could feel the cool breeze. And then you started doing the old raver meme of those goth kids underneath the bridge raving, right? And you're like, I'm like, do you remember this one, Techno Viking? And it was like a real, because she was a techno DJ, and she started playing this banging techno song, and I started doing Techno Viking around the place. And I remember the security guard was looking at me going, what the hell is this guy doing? And then I think the promoter walked by me, and I almost ran him over doing Techno Viking, and I was like going to push him off to the side going, hey, where's my bottle of water? And you're like, and I finally showed you the video. You're like, oh my God, this is it. I'm like, yes, Techno Viking, he's the shit. So good. I enjoyed that night. It was great. The laser show was amazing, especially when I was like really at my peak of the high too. I was like, oh, look at this laser show. Lasers. It was so awesome. So you ready to get the show started?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You ever wonder if weed is vegan? Do you like to think it's vegan? I mean,
I've never thought about that.
Never thought about it?
Not
I never thought about it really either, but I guess
it is a plant.
It is, but it's not so much vegan. Oh. And here's why.
Why?
From cow blood to bat poop, growing cannabis can involve involve a lot of animals.
Oh, in that way.
Yes.
Dang.
When considering a vegan lifestyle, many look at their food and perhaps their clothing materials. But what about organically grown, clean, green, certified weed? Many organic agricultural products applied to add primary and secondary nutrients into the soil are derived from or made by animals. Fish protein, FPH, blood meal, bone meal, excrement are often added to soil or fed to plants in compost tea to promote root growth and terpene production. Before the meat packing industry, these nutrients were once natural byproducts on family farms or readily available from a neighbor's ranch. But the symbiotic relationship has shifted into one of the mass production and in turn a cycle of what some would call animal cruelty. Many animal ingredients used in cultivation products come from slaughterhouses and fish mills that don't align with the cruelty-free ethics of veganism.
Whoa.
Let's learn a little more about some ingredients commonly used in cannabis cultivation. Non-vegan cannabis nutrients. Fish protein hydroslate, FPH. FPH is made from fish meat that ferments into highly bioavailable amino acids. In cannabis cultivation, it's often used as a non-burning source of nitrogen that feeds the microbial population of the soil. The raw fish and fish byproducts used in agriculture, FPH, are sourced from fish farms and hatcheries. Bone meal and blood meal and bone meal. The dried powder of purified cow's blood is commonly used as an organic nitrogen soil supplement. In counterpart, bone meal is made from steamed and ground animal bones. Bone meal supplies phosphorus to the soil, so these products aren't interchangeable, but they are both byproducts of slaughterhouses. Worm castings and guano. Excrement is an age-old fertilizer, and there's room to wiggle as to whether worm castings or bat guano would make cannabis plant non-vegan. But well, some bats eat fruit, but a lot of bats eat bugs. So we won't delve into the works of Peter Singer, but it's worth taking stock on how to harvest excrement before deciding. Worm castings are difficult to harvest without hurting the worm. As for bat guano, it's always often harvested from their caves at night when the bats are out hunting. Some farmers argue that animal droppings collected from free-living animals fit within the plant-based growing methods called veganics. Since veganics isn't a defined term, the use of excrement seems to be vary from farmer to farmer. So is any cannabis vegan-friendly? A pot-loving vegan may feel defeated, but vegans don't despair. There are plant-based soil additives like alfalfa meal and gypsum, which I use gypsum in my soil. I mix gypsum in there. If there are alternate options to animal blood and bones in compost tea, why don't more farmers switch over to vegan cultivation methods? Participants in a 2021 study described the challenges with vegan farming, the most common being sourcing veganic products in a market of unclear or inadequate product labeling. Farmers also cited a lack of access to information about vegan farming. These challenges make veganic farming more complex than organic or synthetic farming, but these are the resources like the Vegan Agricultural Network and the Vegan Organic Network that assists farmers interested in veganics. So is weed vegan? Strangely enough, not for the most part, but don't despair. There are many cannabis farms using veganic growing methods across the country, and as cannabis becomes legalized in more states each year, the amount of vegan-friendly cannabis in the world is sure to grow. Yeah, did you ever think about that? I never thought about that. I guess it never crossed my mind because you think it's a plant, it's vegan,
right? But
what nutrients is it taking is the key.
So who's grow? I guess you'd have to be a home grower.
No, there's cultivators. When we were out in Seattle.
I've seen organic. I've never seen vegan. It didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, didn't occur to me either. You know, just because you think it's a plant.
I'm gonna look.
Gonna look up some cultivators. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the West Coast has a bunch. I don't know any here in Illinois that I know of, but I'm sure there's some on the West Coast, 100%. Have you ever not getting high?
Yes.
Lately,
there's times where, that I have consumed, and maybe a half hour later, I feel like I'm completely fine, or it just doesn't hit.
Strange.
I have to increase my dosing.
So what are some of the things to do if you're not getting high anymore?
Well, I've got 7 things to do if you're not getting high anymore. The more weed you smoke, the higher your tolerance. And once you've built a high tolerance, feeling a euphoric and hazy high gets more challenging. Believe it or not, there are ways to get just as high as you felt the first time smoking weed. In fact, you might even get higher than that. Don't give up just yet, as there are plenty of ways to improve your buzz without making any major changes to your consumption routine. While taking some time away from the herb is your best bet, it's still possible to get higher without laying down the pipe. Here are 7 things to do if you're not getting high anymore. 1. Eat a mango before you smoke. Not only is the terpene myrcene found in cannabis, but it's also present in mangoes. When you ingest this delicious fruit, it causes the cell membranes in the brain to be more receptive to absorbing cannabinoids that travel in your weed smoke. 2. Try strong edibles. If you're familiar with edibles, try increasing your dose or opting for a stronger product altogether. 3. Dabs. Anyone? If you're looking to achieve the ultimate high, dabs are the way to go. In fact, there are concentrates out there that contain as much as 99.9% THC. That should do the trick. After just one hit, you will be as high as you would be if you smoked an entire blunt by yourself, if not more. There's high for you. Now, my tolerance is not that high. 4. Stop smoking the same old strain. Everyone has a favorite strain, but if you don't branch out and try new ones, how will you know if you're getting the best high possible? Also, don't ignore the sativas. I know connoisseurs love their relaxing and hard-hitting indicas, but a rich sativa might be your one-way ticket to euphoria. I say mix it up big time because everything has different terpenes, just a whole different profile. So we have endocannabinoids, and maybe whatever your favorite strain is not hitting that many endocannabinoids. So if you swap up your strain and try some other different varieties, you may hit other receptors and feel even better than you've ever felt.
Variety is the spice of life.
Yeah. And I do wonder too, when I read this, that if you are someone who just consumes the same strain all the time, you grow the same plant or you just buy the same bud all the time, they say as you consume, you wake up and you kind of open up your endocannabinoid system to receiving the cannabinoids. So if you don't ever mix up your strains, is it possible that all of your cannabinoid receptors aren't on the receiving, like they're not awake, right? So mix it up.
Variety's the spice of life.
Yeah. 5, experiment with live resin. Live resin is also available in dab form that can be used with traditional dab rigs, but it's also available in vape cartridges and disposables. Smoking weed can deplete the cannabinoid and terpene content. On the other hand, live resin contains carefully preserved cannabinoids and terpenes, so it could get you higher than dry flower. 6, cut your bud instead of grinding it. Aha. When you use scissors, it allows for a finer cut without making you lose what matters most, the kief and terpenes. I will say, though, when you grind it, you don't lose the kief and the terpenes. They end up just in the bottom of the grinder, and you get to dump them on your joint.
You did that the other night.
But cutting is a nice technique. It is nice. Like if you're rolling a joint or filling a bowl, it's nice.
Filling a bowl, especially. Yeah, it's nice.
7, try something new. One of the biggest reasons why cannabis consumers have trouble getting higher than usual is because they're sticking to the same routine. They're smoking the same strain, using the same consumption method, smoking at the same time of day. When we become used to our routine, we build a tolerance for it. The best way to get higher than usual is by switching up your routine. If you're a regular joint smoker, try hitting a bong. If you love bongs but want something stronger, try dabs. The key is to use a different consumption method than what you're used to. It provides a completely new experience and new effects.
Bong ribs, baby.
Get out there. Try
Bong
some
ribs.
mangoes.
Paulie tried mangoes in the early stages of the show, and we talked about it on the episode, and he said he felt a little higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I like a good mango.
Mango. I like mango juice.
Mango juice is great.
The fruit is a little mushy, slimy for me. But the juice is good.
Juice is good. Have you ever heard of a woolly umbrella?
Just today.
Just today? Mm-hmm. They're saying it might be the new cannabis. A plant that smells like curry produces large amounts of medicinal cannabinoid CBG, which is the mother of all cannabinoids, and phenomenal for indigestion. CBG is great for inflammation. It's just a phenomenal cannabinoid for your body. So, but this is not about cannabis. This is about a plant that is totally unrelated to cannabis, but has been found to produce large numbers of cannabinoids. The compounds responsible for various pharmacological effects of weed, known as the woolly umbrella, sometimes spelled woolly, W-O-O-L-Y, or W-O-O-L-L-Y. The plant makes several of the same molecules present in cannabis, as well as dozens of previously unknown cannabinoids, some of which may have medical properties. Woolly umbrella is a South African flowering plant of the daisy family that is best known for smelling like curry. Historical sources hint at it as used as an intoxicant in folk rituals, and a study conducted decades ago indicated that it may contain cannabinoids. Although until now, researchers have never pinpointed the structure of these compounds. After sequencing the plant's genome and analyzing its chemical compounds, the author of the new studies were able to identify more than 40 cannabinoids in the leaves of the woolly umbrella. By comparison, cannabis produces well over 100 cannabinoids. However, because cannabis-derived cannabinoids are found in the plant's flower, the commercial production of these compounds require intensive cultivation practices, which come at a high economic and environmental cost. In contrast, the study authors describe woolly umbrella as a perennial, fast-growing, commercially viable plant source for bioactive cannabinoids. It doesn't produce THC or CBD, the two most famous cannabinoids found in cannabis. It does manufacture large amounts of CBG, which CBG is the mother of all cannabinoids, and it's very hard to get an abundance of it in the cannabis plant compared to THC and CBD. But in this plant, it's saying it's got an abundance of it, so that's awesome. A cannabinoid that has shown promise as treatment for neurological disorders, colon cancer, and various other medical conditions, like I said earlier. According to the research, cannabinoid signaling is projected to have a therapeutic potential in almost all human diseases. For many patients, however, the psychoactive properties of THC are undesirable, which means medically relevant cannabinoids must be isolated from the cannabis extracts. The fact that the woolly umbrella doesn't produce THC may therefore be an advantage and could allow for easier access to CBG and other cannabinoids without having to worry about patients getting the psychoactive effect. They have found a major new source of cannabinoids and developed tools for the sustained production, which can help explore their enormous therapeutic potential, explained by author Dr. Paula Bremen in a statement. After identifying the enzymes involved in the creation of these cannabinoids, the researchers were able to modify brewer's yeast to produce the exact same compounds. And while 6 of the cannabinoids identified in the woolly umbrella are also present in cannabis, the rest are completely new. The next exciting step would be to determine the properties of more than 30 new cannabinoids they've discovered and then see the therapeutic uses they might have, said Berman. Curiously, scientists still don't fully understand why plants produce cannabinoids, although there is some evidence to suggest that may help to deter predators and could even act as a kind of a natural sunblock by protecting plants from ultraviolet rays. The fact that in the course of evolution, 2 genetically unrelated plants independently developed the ability to make cannabinoids suggests that these compounds perform an important ecological function, explained the study author, Professor Asfa, or I'm going to butcher this and I apologize, Aroni. More researchers need to determine what these functions are. The study was published in Natural Plants. That's pretty cool. The woolly umbrella.
The woolly umbrella.
Just, I thought it was interesting because more cannabinoids, and finding more ways to get CBG because it is a phenomenal cannabinoid. I love it. So I take it edibly. I don't, every once in a while you'll see like a 1% or a 0.5% CBG in flour, but very rare. So, but that's awesome. Nano-emulsification process. I heard this word the other day for the first time, and then all of a sudden I wanted to know more about it. And then High Times came out with this awesome article. So what do we need to know about it, Mrs. Weedman?
I have everything you need to know about nano-emulsification. Cannabis enthusiasts around the world are constantly seeking ways to enhance their experience. Nano-emulsification is a safe and efficient method for elevating your experience. Products made with nano-emulsification offer a more consistent and reliable experience for users, making dosing easier than ever before. Let's take an in-depth look at the advantages of this process, the types of THC products with nano-emulsification, the distinctions between them, and non-nano-emulsified THC products, as well as other concerns shared by our readers. Nano-emulsification is a technique that breaks liquid particles into minute droplets on a nanoscale, creating an ultra-stable liquid that spreads out evenly. This technology has revolutionized how drugs, cosmetics, and food additives are administered. Recently, it's gained attention within the cannabis industry for making THC products more bioavailable and effective. THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, is the chemical found in cannabis plants that causes the feeling of being high. Traditional consumption methods have always been challenged due to concerns over bioavailability or the amount of substance absorbed into the bloodstream. Nano-emulsification makes THC products more bioavailable by breaking them up into smaller droplets that the body can more readily absorb. Because these particles are smaller, they penetrate cell membranes and enter the bloodstream more rapidly, leading to faster effects from each dose. And since each droplet contains exactly the same amount of THC, this technology makes dosing much simpler too. Nano-emulsified THC products are water-soluble. They can be added to drinks and other liquids without separation or settlement, something not possible with traditional THC products made from oil. Nano-emulsification can be applied to many THC products, such as tinctures, edibles, beverages, and topicals. This process takes your favorite items to the next level. Tinctures are liquid extracts that can be put in food or drinks or taken orally. When combined with nano-emulsified THC, they become even faster acting than before. Some users claim they can control the intensity of effects due to more even distribution of THC within the product. Beverages with cannabis in them are becoming increasingly popular, and nano-emulsification makes it simple to add THC. This technology is also being employed in topicals like lotions and balms that deliver THC directly onto specific parts of the body. There's a difference between nano-emulsified and non-nano-emulsified THC products. The primary distinctions are that when their effects start, how long they last, and their strength. Nano-emulsified products generally start sooner and last a shorter time than non-nano-emulsified ones. Also, non-emulsified THC items tend to have higher potency since each droplet contains the same amount of THC. I'm high. Okay. The nano-emulsified THC items tend to have higher potency since each droplet contains the same amount of THC, offering more consistency across time. When using nano-emulsified THC products, it's best to start with a low dose and gradually increase until you achieve your desired effects. It's especially crucial for first-time users since nano-emulsified THC has stronger effects than traditional methods due to the speedy action and higher concentration. Nano-emulsification can also enhance shelf life of THC items by increasing stability and decreasing degradation. It can enhance flavor and aroma in these items, too, for an enhanced consumption experience. Nano-emulsification is an innovative technology with potential to increase THC bioavailability and effectiveness. With continued research and development, the process could revolutionize the cannabis industry, making THC products more accessible and effective for consumers. That's pretty impressive. There still is a point where everyone is different. Like,
This is more. We talked about nano-emulsification a long time ago. I think I brought it up on an episode, and it was very, very new. They were talking about the putting it in edibles, of course, and using. You remember those old Listerine strips?
Yeah.
That was the guy that.
That would be cool.
Yeah, was inventing those. I've never seen them here in Illinois, but that's what they were doing. So, and I heard they were pretty good. So, and they were using nano-emulsification to produce it on the strips. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, so much they can do with that. It's amazing. Florida Attorney General asked state Supreme Court to block cannabis legalization initiative from 2024 ballot. That is just like, this will be like the third time. So the Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody transmitted the measure to the court with the opinion challenging it constitutionally. They're going in and getting signatures, and they're almost there to get the signatures to get it on the ballot. How is that unconstitutional? That's what this system is about. You asked them that they had to get the signatures. They're going out and getting them. They're this close to getting it, and now Ms. Moody, you're panicking because they're going to get it, and it's going to go on the ballot. And if the Supreme Court does this, oh my gosh! If I was all you in Florida, I'd vote them all out, all of them, because they don't care what you want; they only care what they want. Never forget that. Here's some of the laws, though, that I was reading about. Adults. So these are what is on the legalization ballot. Adults 21 and older could purchase and possess up to 1 ounce of cannabis for personal use. The cap for concentrates is 5 grams. Medical cannabis dispensaries could acquire, cultivate, process, manufacture, sell, and distribute cannabis products and cannabis accessories to adults for personal use. I want a medical license in Florida. If this goes through, because then you'll have all in one. I just want a little house shop and grow my 25, 30 plants in the back. Mrs. Weedman makes the edibles, and we're good to go. And I can do it all medically. A little cool little shop. But unfortunately, Florida charges $52 million to get a friggin' license. What? Yeah. No, that's what that was the going rate a while back ago. The legislature would be authorized but not required to approve additional entities and are not currently licensed cannabis dispensaries. The initiative specifies that nothing in the proposal prevents the legislature from enacting laws that are consistent with this amendment. The amendment further clarifies that nothing about the proposal changes federal law. There are no provisions from home cultivation. What? People in Florida want to grow their own medicine. Hands down. There is also no provisions for expungents, prior records, or social equity in this bill. The measure would take 6 months following approval by voters. Come on, Florida. They have gotten... By February, they crossed the 420,000 signatures. They are now at 786,688 of the 891,523 valid signatures they need. They are so close. They're just over. They need over 100,000 more signatures. 105. Wow. Yeah, 105,000. So close. They got until they haven't. I don't know what it says here to have it till when, but I think they have until the end of the year. So, come on now, Florida. This was a great story. Cannabis company in Michigan begins to hire up to 350 laid-off Burger King workers. Nearly all of the laid-off Burger King workers have applied for a job, and the Burger King workers will soon be earning more money making the products than they were at Burger King. The company already hired 4 dozen workers who lost their jobs when a Burger King franchise owner closed 26 restaurants, mostly in Detroit, in late March. Of the roughly 400 laid-off Burger King workers, an astonishing 350 of them have applied for a job, says one of the managing partners. The company plans to hire 200 workers in the first round of hires and an additional 100 to 150 in the second round. That's pretty awesome. That's really nice. You know, so good for you, Michigan. And Burger King, I don't know what's going on, but Man, you used to make a good Whopper with cheese.
Yeah, they did.
I haven't had anything from Burger King since our kids were little because they made good chicken.
It's been so long.
They used to love their chicken nuggets and those crunchy fries they made. Remember those little crunchy fries?
Oh, they did, yeah.
New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu ready to legalize adult use cannabis, but the Senate kind of put a kibosh in it, but he's ready to go, or she's ready to go. So let's hope they get it done. I know there's some talks going on about it. The future of cannabis seed sales and breeding being navigated by the DEA, and there's some regulations. DEA's role in regulating cannabis seeds and sales, licensing requirements for importers, manufacturers, and distributors of cannabis seeds, record keeping and reporting requirements for businesses handling cannabis seeds, security measures to prevent diversion of cannabis seeds to the illicit or traditional market. Additionally, the DEA oversees the registration of research facilities and individual researchers who wish to work with cannabis seeds, ensuring that they adhere to stringent guidelines and protocols. Cannabis breeders face several challenges when navigating DEA regulations, such as obtaining the necessary license and permits to operate within the legal framework, ensuring compliance with DEA record and keeping, reporting, and security requirements, balancing the need for innovation with the restrictions imposed by DEA regulations. Best practices for navigating DEA regulations. Seek professional and legal advice to ensure compliance with the DEA requirements. Implement comprehensive record keeping and reporting system to maintain accurate records of seed sales and breeding activities. Invest in robust security measures to prevent unauthorized access to cannabis seeds and protect against diversion. Engage in ongoing research and development and stay ahead of industry trends and emerging regulations. Network with other industry professionals to share the knowledge and best practices. As cannabis industry continues to evolve, one can anticipate several potential developments that may impact cannabis seeds and sales and breeding. Changes in federal legalizations, advances in breeding techniques and genetic research may lead to the development of new and improved cannabis strains, further driving demand for high-quality seeds. As more states and countries legalize cannabis for medicinal and recreational use, the global market for cannabis seeds is likely to expand, presenting new opportunities for breeders. Increased interest in sustainable and organic cultivation practices may drive demand for specialized cannabis seed varieties that are suited to these methods. Hence, we talked about vegan growing. The emergence of novel applications for cannabis as such, and as the pharmaceutical and industries may further fuel demand for unique and tailored cannabis genetics. Genetic mapping and breeding techniques they oversee. Digital platforms for seed sales, precision agriculture, and data-driven cultivation. This is all the kind of stuff that you need to make sure you're good at, especially if the DA is looking at you. Blockchain technology and seed traceability. This was one I didn't even think about. Blockchain technology has the potential to enhance traceability and transparency in the cannabis seed supply chain by creating a tamper-proof digital ledger of seed transactions. Blockchain technology can help ensure seed authenticity, preventing counterfeiting, and maintain compliance with regulatory requirements. As the demand for high-quality traceable cannabis seeds grows, adopting blockchain technology may become an essential component of successful seed sales and breeding operations. So conclusion is this: navigating the complex regulatory landscape surrounding cannabis seeds, sales, and breeding is a challenge endeavor for industry professionals. However, by understanding the DEA's role in regulating cannabis seeds and sales, addressing the challenges and opportunities for cannabis breeders, and employing best practices for navigating DEA regulations, businesses can position themselves for success in this rapidly evolving industry. So, Congresswoman asked National Botanic Garden to grow cannabis plants outside of the U.S. Capitol. They're already growing hemp plants outside there, so they might as well just throw some cannabis plants. Why not? They did it in Mexico City along their capital. There was a whole entire sanctuary. You couldn't touch the plants or smoke the plant, but you could sit there and relax and meditate and read or do whatever you want. It was pretty dope looking at the pictures. Do you know how much cannabis tax revenue, from 2014 to 2022, the states have collected? Take a guess.
All legal states?
All legal, medical, just tax revenue. From 2014 to 2022. Just take one guess.
82 billion.
No. that you're way off. That's probably the overall sales, over
Okay.
100 billion.
Yeah.
15.1 billion in tax revenue.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Lot.
Yeah.
How come all of our schools aren't rebuilt yet? And
Well,
how-
each state has to independently decide where the money.
I read where
and
the
they
Illinois
abuse
money.
it. They
I read
abuse
where
it.
the Illinois money was
But they
going
don't
to.
all say it's going to the schools. I think that early
think
on
any
that
of
was
it
a
go.
big pitch.
Right.
That we're going to give back to the schools because it made communities want the dispensaries and cultivation centers to be in their community.
Right. But I
But-
do have a suggestion. That
Yeah.
15.1 billion, if you would have took 100 million of that every year from 2014 to 2022, you'd have enough money to be able to have a pension fund and retirement funds for all the people in the cannabis industry.
Yeah. But they just can't be that smart,
No,
can they?
not at all.
No.
Nope. And get them better pay and get them insurance.
Because what does that do for their pocket?
Well, here's one thing. Here, I'll say
I'm not
this.
talking about the dispenser. I'm talking about the politicians.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you.
The people who make the laws.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. I thought about this while I was really high last night in bed. I was up last night till about 2, 3 in the morning just thinking of the industry because of this article. And I got to say this. What happens if every person in the industry took off for a month? Just took off and said, fuck you. Do you think the government would flip the fuck out because they weren't getting their tax revenue? I'm not
Of
talking about the
course.
dispensaries, and I'm not talking about cultivation, because they should shut down their shit too and just say, we're closing our doors for a month. I know it would never happen. You know how much tax revenue every government would be out of? Like Illinois is doing 150 to 160 to 180 million dollars a month. Michigan's doing 200 million a month. California's doing huge numbers. So my thing is this. If they didn't have that tax revenue, do you think they'd be going out of their mind? Like, what's going on here? What's going on here? Mm-hmm. So if everybody just shut down for one day and no tax revenue, the government would freak the fuck. All the state governments would freak the fuck out because they ain't getting that money. But just to prove a point, going, you took $15.1 billion in tax revenue, and you're in Illinois, it's that reinvest. It's the 3 R's, and I mean, a lot of that money is going to administrative shit. Remember, I read all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Why? I mean, pay the cannabis employees for the state that have to do regulations and all that kind of stuff. I get that, but if Illinois did $600 million in tax revenue last year, and they took $100 million of that and invested it back into the people in the industry for insurance,
Right.
for pension, better pay, better working areas, the industry would be. There's going to be 1 million people in the cannabis industry in the next couple of years. You're going to have the power to do what you need to do at 1 million people, and it's going to keep on growing. So I just think that kind of tax revenue, and it's not going back into the system. I mean, I'm talking about the cannabis industry. It's fucked up because that's a lot of money. Connecticut, little old Connecticut, did $21 million in legal sales in April. Good for them. Minnesota's so close to finalizing cannabis legalization bill in conference committee with passage expected possibly this week. And this was just published like a couple hours ago, so we'll see what happens. We love tattoos.
Yeah, we do.
We got a lot of them.
Got a few.
Between the both of us, we got a lot.
Just a few.
Yeah, just a few.
A couple, 1, 2.
Now, I've always been told don't get high before you go get your tat. I don't know. I've been high. More so is that alcohol. Don't get drunk before you go get a tattoo.
Well, they also think that because cannabis can kind of raise your senses a little bit, that the pain...
might go a little further than you want.
Yeah. Which is weird because it takes inflammation down and
Right.
it makes most people relax.
Yeah, I took a half an edible before I went.
I've contemplated, but someone would always say, no, you shouldn't do that.
But
So,
talking to Big Earl and then reading this article and sending it over to you, can cannabis help with tattoo aftercare?
this is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tattoos are art collections that you carry with you for a lifetime, and taking care of a fresh tattoo is essential to keeping the piece in good shape. An artist will instruct clients in tattoo aftercare, cleansing, and how to avoid infection and scarring. A crucial component of this aftercare regimen is the moisturizer applied to new ink during the healing process. One study surveyed 32 tattoo artists on their post-tattoo moisturizer recommendations. Unscented lotion and petroleum-based ointment were the top responses. Some companies offer products formulated specifically for tattoo aftercare, but artists surveyed mentioned mainstream brands like Aquaphor as their top recommended product. Topical cannabis brands are entering the tattoo aftercare market with products designed to moisturize fresh ink and keep mature tattoos crisp. However, some research suggests that cannabinoids in tattoo aftercare may do more than hydrate. Every ink dot in a tattoo requires a needle puncture to the skin, which means a fresh tattoo is an amalgam of many wounds. After laying down a new piece of art, the skin reacts like it has an open wound, and the moisturizer aids in the recovery process. Not moisturizing a tattoo can lead to cracking. When the skin cracks and the ink bleeds, it can leave a blemish on your new piece. New tattoos will itch as they dry out, and scratching them raises the risk of infection and can also blemish the final look. Many tattoo artists recommend moisturizing 2 to 3 times daily to reduce the itch. There are endocannabinoid receptors in the skin, and though more research is needed, preliminary studies show cannabinoids could promote wound healing. In a 2018 anecdotal study of 3 patients who chose to use topical cannabis products, all 3 patients reported faster wound healing. The study also concludes that more research is needed, but CBD and cannabinoid topicals could promote wound healing. Many companies that make topical CBD products offer lotions, creams, or balms specifically for tattoos. Tattoos require a non-scented, no-frills moisturizer to avoid irritation and infection, but some include natural essential oils that aid in healing. Moisturizing a fresh tattoo can preserve the art and inhibit itching, and cannabis topicals may promote faster healing. Though more research is needed, it can't hurt to bring up the topic with your tattoo artist next time you go under the needle. I think that's pretty interesting. I'd give it a try.
Well, I was talking to Big Earl, and he was saying he always uses like a cannabis balm, and it works
I'd go
great.
with cannabis before I'd go with an essential oil, because the essential oil could really irritate an open wound.
Yes.
Even though, like, there's, what is that one that, like, 30 Thieves or 20 Thieves?
Yeah, I think I bought that for you. Yeah.
That's
that works
supposed
really
to,
well.
that's meant, you have to put it in a carrier oil, and super, super diluted, and it's meant to help with healing, but I think I'd go with CBD before I'd go with something like that.
I'd go with a balm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice little, like, coconut oil balm.
Yeah, coconut oil.
Make it fused with cannabis.
Yeah.
That'd be dope. So, international news. Grandma who supplied canna butter in Australia sentenced. A great-grandmother in Australia was sentenced to a 2-year bond based on good behavior, avoiding a 3.5-year sentence for supplying canna butter to a minor. One grandma in Australia found healing benefits through cannabis-infused butter, but it backfired when her teen great-grandson used it to bake cupcakes and share them at school. Pam Annette Bickerton, 74, was sentenced on May 4th after her teen great-grandson used her cannabis-infused butter to bake cupcakes and share them with classmates in the school in South Australia. Bickerton says she was halfway asleep when her unnamed teen grandson asked if he could use some of the canna butter. Still in the state of tiredness, and unfortunately, she said, "Go for it. Just make sure that you clean up afterwards," her lawyer said in court. When police responded to the incident and arrived in Bickerton's home in the weeks after, she admitted that she still had 3 bags of canna butter in her freezer and 2 bongs, which were immediately seized. Magistrate John Wickens, however, was not impressed with the defense, saying that Bickerton's should have known better. Police became aware of allegations that the student was selling cupcakes. Poor great-grandma. Laced with cannabis, presented at the sick bay, displaying symptoms consistent with cannabis consumption. Magistrate Justin Wickens said. Police spoke to 2 students who disclosed that was providing the cannabis-laced cakes. The judge asked her to consider the weight of her alleged crime. This is very serious offending, and supplying drugs to minors is a very serious offense, he said. Bickerton pleaded guilty to one count of supplying or administering a controlled substance to a child before appearing in an Adelaide magistrate court. The great-grandmother was sentenced on Thursday. Bickerton faced a jail sentence of 3.5 years behind bars, but dropped in favor of pleading guilty and getting a good behavior bond. No charges were given to her great-grandson for distributing the cupcakes. That, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad the great-grandson didn't get, anything on him, but he knew exactly what he was doing.
Right.
He asked his great-grandma, can I use your can of butter to make cupcakes? And he had a plan. I'm going to make some money.
Well, just a kid making a really bad decision.
Yes, a really bad decision, because now his great-grandma got a record.
Poor great-grandma. That's awful.
It is awful. It is. But at least she's got good behavior. She didn't go to jail for 3.5 years. That would have sucked. Colombia legalization bill heading to Senate following Chamber of Reps approval. Great. Gang violence could put an end to open cannabis trade in Copenhagen's Christiana neighborhood. Come on now. Convicts in the Netherlands are smuggling synthetic cannabinoids. Not good. Also, in the Red District, it is now illegal to smoke cannabis. That law that we talked about a while back ago went into effect. That sucks. Hemp as an economically sustainable alternative to tobacco in Zimbabwe, the government declared it would boost its research to generate homegrown hemp strains in part of its nation's attempt to bolster income from decreasing tobacco industry. Cannabis seizures in Cyprus. Cyprus authorities have identified cannabis as the number one substance of choice on the island in 2022, even though the country legalized the cultivation, import, export, and use of medical cannabis in February of 2019. The recreational use of cannabis is still considered illegal, according to the Cyprus profile. That's weird. Guam bill to remove cannabis testing requirements for certain government jobs. That's awesome. New Zealand, MMJ patients access to locally grown cannabis. Nubu, New Zealand's medical cannabis distribution company, has partnered with Kylex to bring the first New Zealand-grown dried cannabis flower with the Medicinal Cannabis Agency, the Auckland-based company, said on Tuesday. The move allows New Zealand MMJ patients to legally access locally grown products. Good for you, New Zealand. I cannot wait to go visit Australia and go maybe get one of great-grandma's cupcakes and go smoke some weed in New Zealand. Thailand's cannabis sellers say U.S. growers are eating their lunch. And how they know this is because they've been getting some illegal imports from the west coast of the United States coming over to Thailand, and they're saying the west coast of the United States flower is superior. Superior. Yes, it is very good. It is fucking amazing. So yeah, there's foreign brokers over there approaching local dispensaries to hawk cheap smuggled weed that is untaxed and then sold 2 to 5 times its original price, according to local cannabis entrepreneurs. Each day we have brokers, both Thais and other nationalities. That is definitely a multinational business coming into our shops trying to sell us imported weed, but we turn them all down. If it's coming from the United States, the West Coast, where you're saying they're eating your lunch, we know why you're turning it down. Under Thai law, recreational cannabis use is still theoretically illegal. However, enforcement is patchy, and cannabis shops and stalls are found on particularly every other street corner in Thailand, major towns and cities. Tourists flood the area like crazy, like we've talked about. So there's also actually, I'm going to read on the next episode, the new government that's in, that got voted in. They might try to cancel the whole entire cannabis thing in Thailand, which there are going to be riots if you do that. A lot of people, a lot of shops open, a lot of people making good money, good living. Don't fuck it up. Thailand is becoming a world-renowned cannabis place to go to. So don't fuck it up, Thailand. Weed culture.
Yeah.
Cannabis culture.
Yeah.
It's so hard to, because, coming from, I've been smoking cannabis for a long time. My dad smoked cannabis and dealt cannabis for a long time. It's been in my life, my whole entire life. I've seen it since forever, and there's every generation has its own culture, within that time frame, Weed culture today is way different, I think, than weed culture in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and the 60s. even though it is legal, recreational in a lot of states, medical in a lot of states, the stigma's still there in some ways. But what and where is this culture at today, Mrs. Weedman?
Yeah, this is a good one. And to add on to what you're saying, it is very different now because there's new generations of kids. There's a whole new generation that in certain states aren't going to know that it was ever illegal. And so imagine that. Right? So this article is great. What and where is cannabis culture today? I recently asked my followers what type of cannabis stories they want to see covered more in the media. Culture was one of the most discussed topics. Dan Guercio, a New York-based cannabis writer and creative, felt that cannabis news stories had to focus on a brand, celebrity, political, or science angle to get featured. The only culture stuff we get is from the same 5 dudes and their friends, she said, via LinkedIn comments. There's a little bit of an echo chamber happening in the professional space right now. Similar circles circulating similar information, she told me in a follow-up chat. The suggestion was certainly interesting. We were running into an echo chamber where only a few similar voices were speaking for millions. I wasn't sure about the number of representatives, but I certainly agreed when it came to the stories. With commenters telling me they wanted more success stories and relatable topics, is news playing gatekeeper or is the public short-sighting the current offerings? When I pitched the topic to my editor, he told me I could pursue it only if I went into it realizing that I was one of those dudes. I agreed to the condition despite not fully agreeing with the opinion. Sure, my work appeared regularly on a few outlets. Still, I could name several voices on this publication and numerous others that cover all things pot. And even if only 5 of us dudes are covering the scene, I can name at least 2 that probably wouldn't consider me a colleague that they'd want to associate with. I get it, if that's the case. Those prominent writers certainly walk the walk more than I ever could. Maybe it's the imposter syndrome talking, but I never thought a 30-something who could barely roll a J, hasn't grown a plant, and hasn't been busted for anything really represents what many in the Western world consider authentic weed culture. Or maybe it isn't the imposter syndrome, but rather the reality of the current situation. Before tackling if it is adequately covered in the media, I needed to unpack what cannabis culture is in the first place. To do so, I asked roughly 100 pot personalities, from underground operators to MSO execs to casual consumers.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. What is cannabis culture? The cannabis culture we're looking to nail down is a bit ambiguous, like it's been for decades. Defining culture can be challenging at times. Taking pot out of the equation doesn't help much either. Culture's definition varies depending on our source. Most would summarize it as our shared or collective knowledge, experiences, beliefs, patterns, behaviors, attitudes, religions, and other components we've encountered as humans over many generations. We shape the world around us through our collective experiences. As time progresses, our culture evolves with it. Our worldviews grow while some once dominant traits or subcultures fade into the background as others gain prominence. That sums up cannabis culture throughout the ages, particularly today. While many may have clearly defined views of culture, others contest that it has always been wide-reaching. It is a multifaceted phenomenon encompassing a wide range of social and behavioral aspects surrounding the consumption of cannabis, said Kimberly Shaw, a 10-year cannabis grower and plant enthusiast. Thanks to legalization and expanding access, millions of newcomers are now part of the discussion. Does this make them part of the culture? Well, it depends on who you ask. Excluding the overlap with mainstream pop culture, movies, music, celebs, etc., the cannabis culture, as it was once known, has evolved into industry culture, said Benjamin Owens, a cannabis event organizer and author of the psilocybin recipe book, Mr. Boomer's Magic Kitchen. The culture has many faces and many independent desires, said Alex Redmond via Twitter. From MSOs to ancillary businesses, it doesn't feel like we're attracting the best and the brightest, he added. I think that was kind of mean.
Very mean.
Whether we like it or not, these individuals are part of the cannabis community, a now bloated but still technically accurate term for pot consumers. While some may not like the inclusion of casuals and atypical consumers or operators, there's no denying these folks represent the evolution of modern community and its culture. Cannabis culture today is evolving and being remixed across geographic boundaries, legal and legacy sectors, and consumer communities, said Michael Kaufman, executive director of the Clio Music and Clio Cannabis Awards. Until recently, cannabis culture helped describe the few prevailing cannabis subcultures, including medical users, advocates, trappers, and the hip-hop community, but some argue that view excludes today's and past eras cannabis consumers. This is important. I always say cannabis culture is a subculture of all other cultures, said Bellum, a prominent cannabis writer and comedian. He added, whatever it is that people do, there's a subset of people that like to get high and do that. Similarly, Morgan Fox, political director for NORML, told me the cannabis community has always represented more than its most vocal pot proponents. I think it's kind of difficult to answer because cannabis culture has always been ubiquitous, he said. Since prohibition has been in place, there's been a kinship between weed consumers from various walks of life. Even people who were super undercover about their cannabis use. Part of the culture of cannabis use was that when they would find somebody else that they knew also consumed cannabis, there'd be this sort of like instant rapport and understanding, said Fox. The silent consumers throughout the ages certainly helped contribute to the culture, but if you were to ask the general public during those times what they considered cannabis culture, few, if any, would say the silent majority. Instead, they'd likely mention the loudest communities and subcultures. My hunch is that, like anything people hold dear, they feel responsible for protecting the cannabis community and culture that they grew up in. As the world around them changes, they become protective of what they see as the proper culture. And I'm doing like air quote unquote proper culture. Because what is proper culture, right? Without conflating cannabis into another massive societal issue, it feels like cannabis's old guard is protective of its remaining culture as cannabis gentrifiers enter the community. While justified and correct in many ways, I do wonder if certain members of cannabis are shutting out passionate cannabis folks because they do not fall into the standard personalities or perspectives that we've established as authentic. Air quotes again. If they don't look a certain way, don't know enough about the plant, or haven't been arrested for it, are they still considered members of the culture?
Yes.
Yes. In recent eras, that quite consuming approach helped minimize particular consumers as different subcultures became dominant voices. While true that culture varies by country, city, state, neighborhood, a few prevalent subcultures continue to shape much of the conversation. Because remember, the loudest examples, right, are the ones that we think are the culture. But there are so many subcultures and aspects of the cannabis community.
Yep.
So back to the article. Few will deny that the medical community is where it all started out, right? Not music, not acting, not Hollywood, it started with medicine centuries ago, hundreds of years ago. While some could have puffed on the plant for fun in the early days, documented history shows that groups stretching across various continents and centuries turned to cannabis for its healing properties. One of the most heavily cited examples is the plant's inclusion in ancient Chinese pharmacopoeia. I think cannabis transcends almost everything because it's biology, said Hawaii Mike Salmon about the body's endocannabinoid system. Salmon, the co-founder of New York-based infused dining events Chef for Hire, grew up in the Bay Area and Hawaiian cannabis communities. There, he began developing an appreciation for how the plant fit into daily life and wellness. His professional career saw cannabis converge with one of the most influential cultures of the past 40 years or so, hip-hop. Like other genres of music before it, hip-hop has continued to shape cannabis while the plant has done the same to it. The trend is nothing new, with artists ranging from Rick James to Louis Armstrong shouting out the plant over the years, but hip-hop has run with it like no one else. Whether it's jazz, classic rock, or hip-hop, the cannabis connection was forged thanks to other crucial subcultures, the underground. Call them the OGs, trappers, legacy operators, your guy, or whatever you want. We wouldn't have cannabis culture without the ones supplying the pipeline. The OGs kept the medical market thriving despite prohibition and draconian criminal punishments for nonviolent offenses. Until legalization, if you saw weed, you knew it came from the underground. They supplied pot to musicians and club attendees throughout the decades, just as they did for you and I in these modern times. Without their contributions and sacrifices, cannabis culture wouldn't have flourished. And we for damn sure wouldn't have the legal market that often turns a cold shoulder to the OGs when setting up licensed businesses. These large groups of people help shape cannabis culture in the United States and most other nations. Hip-hop can play more or less of a role depending on the country. However, the medical and underground movements are linked to culture no matter if it's America, India, South Africa, or even more restrictive parts of the world. And as legalization and access grows, so does the cannabis community. Therein lies the conflict. Are newcomers part of the culture or just the community? And are either of their stories getting told properly? These groups have every right to claim a significant stake in the foundation of cannabis culture. Advocates and other plant-passionate individuals make up a huge portion of the community, too. It can be argued that they are pillars just as much as any other group. The term advocate has become a freely used descriptor as legalization efforts gain steam in recent years. The true advocates, the ones passionate about education, reform, and eroding stigmas, are a community that deserves recognition as cornerstones of the culture in the past century or so. And then there are the casuals. These folks, they like their pot, sometimes consuming every day, sometimes less frequently. No matter how often they partake, when they do, they enjoy it. While they may love it, you won't confuse this group for the OGs. Some in this group pursue plant knowledge to become more informed consumers. Parents and working professionals are becoming two of the more prominent voices in the casual consumer community. Other casuals aren't that concerned about the plant and how they'll feel or how high they'll feel. For some, all they want to know is the THC percentage or the difference between indica, sativas, and hybrids, and some don't even care about that. While this group's lack of knowledge and or zero desire to learn more can frustrate some pot-passionate individuals, we can't disregard the casuals from the conversation. If we do, the education gap will only grow. While casuals aren't entirely representative of the culture, this group's massive numbers shape cannabis society. Even if they aren't impacting OG mindsets, they are the symptom of legalization, helping divide the consuming community into informed, passionate consumers and everyday folks who are eroding stigmas, whether they are aware of it or not. So this leads to the last question. Is the media adequately covering cannabis culture? Many feel that depictions in the news and in fiction-based media continue to rely on stereotypes rather than actual consumers. While you can find cannabis use normalized in select news and fiction projects, recent examples like Netflix's now canceled Disjointed series highlights the ongoing lack of quality cannabis representation in media. Others highlight concerns around the digital news model. Like traditional news, digital media thrives on the if it bleeds, it leads model, meaning sensational stories win out more often than not. The model is also rampant on social media, with scores of influencers looking to cash in on shocking or informative content no one will believe, despite being easily sourced on Google or Wikipedia. When publications like the New York Times run stories about dogs eating edibles instead of more pressing cannabis topics, one has to wonder what's getting passed over. People are really focused on news and business, said Pearson, adding, those types of things versus the actual culture. Pearson's point can be supported by the vast array of cannabis business publications, while many culture-based outlets have shuttered in recent years. News coverage also boils down to budgets, bandwidth, and public importance. With minimal budgets to hire full-time writers or commission freelancers, media outlets, especially emerging pot publications, may be unable to cover all of the stories that they want. Pot-focused outlets are still producing helpful and often must-know information, but you may need to bounce around to various outlets to find comprehensive coverage spanning current events, business, politics, and culture. And as always in life, it's good to step out of the digital sphere every once in a while. Don't forget how important it is to show up. Showing up is the best way to understand the pulse of the community on a local, national, and international level. If you can, go to information sessions, meetups, rallies, public forums, and anywhere else pot is in the discussion. You can also attend events like Cannabis, the High Times Cups, and various other national and international gatherings. Find ones that cater to what you want to learn and dive in. Do these options fix media's lack of cannabis coverage? Well, if you continue to evolve with the times, you can discover a world of cultural content out there, and most of it isn't coming from me and 4 other dudes.
Great article.
Yeah.
It's we try to talk about culture, as much as we can on the show, and the way we format it is we always end with culture, and it's important no matter what kind of culture you're going to bring or what kind of culture you're going to fit in at. But to me, everybody who smokes cannabis fits in everywhere with me. I don't care if you're the wake and baker every day, 24-hour-a-day smoker, or if you're a once-in-a-while smoker, if you're just enjoy it.
Well, and that's just the thing. Cannabis is community.
Yeah.
Cannabis is camaraderie. I don't know anybody who goes outside, if you're out someplace socially and has a joint and doesn't offer it to anyone else who's interested.
I offer all the time.
It is community.
Yeah.
And the culture is welcoming and embracing. And I think that we tend to focus on maybe the culture that we can relate to. And that becomes our cannabis community or our cannabis culture or what we think is cannabis culture. But we have to remember the big picture of its medicinal properties and its medicinal history. And then the West Coast history and then the underground history and the whole big picture of it.
There's a lot of it.
And there's
a lot of history.
And then flash forward to now where it's legal and there are these people that just smoke it. They don't care what they're smoking. They don't care to be educated about it. They just want to enjoy it.
They just enjoy
And there's
weed.
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong at all.
Because like that article says, they're going to help stomp the stigma. If they're open and receptive and they enjoy it because they don't have those stigmas, eventually maybe they may come around to being more, encompassing about learning more about what cannabis is.
Yeah, I mean, I've met people I've smoked some joints with, and they didn't even ask me what it was. They just knew it was weed.
Yeah.
It
doesn't have to be
an
end all be all.
No. I mean, like I said, if someone asked me, oh, what are we smoking? Oh, rotten grapes. Oh, we're smoking Ursula berry. Or someone asked, but most of the time it's like, we're smoking some weed. Cool, let's go.
Let's go.
So, do you realize that Cheech and Chong, they did 8 movies together? Mm-hmm. They did not get high on while they were smoking, while they were doing the movies.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't get high at all. Just
I would have thought for sure.
Me too.
They were baked all the time.
They 8 movies together, and they played the parts very well, but they weren't smoking while they were recording. So kind of crazy. I didn't ever know that. I thought they were baked the whole time.
Yeah, me
or
too.
at least you would be some part of the movies. Man, that's the end of the show, Mrs. Weedman.
Oh, boo-hoo.
I know. Got anything else to say?
Well, everybody, have a great week. What else is going on in the world? There's a lot going on in the world. We have a new mayor in Chicago.
Yeah.
We don't live in Chicago. We're like on the fringe of Chicago. But that was a big deal around here. We finally have maybe some consistent good weather, so that's great.
I kind of like this weather.
It's
Warm
pretty
during the
nice.
day, cold at night.
Cool at
Kind
night,
of like the
good for
desert.
sleeping.
Yeah, it's great. I love.
Yeah.
I gotta be cool. You know, I don't like being hot when I sleep. Get sweaty. Get all.
Gross.
Yeah, it's gross. So. Yeah, so things are going good. Up and up here in Illinois. Up and up around the world, everybody. Hopefully, you all are living your best life and trying to live each and every day. If you're depressed or if you're feeling bad, if you need any help, reach out to somebody. There's someone out there that can talk to you. I know it's isn't it National what's the month this month? It's National
Is it mental health?
Mental Health Month.
Is it
yeah,
mental health awareness?
So
Oh, I didn't realize that.
just take care of yourself. If you're feeling depressed, anything wrong, there's somebody out there that will listen. Even if you just need a hug, there's somebody out there that'll give you a hug and tell you they
That
love
is right.
you. You know, maybe sometimes that's all someone needs, just to be heard. You know, so be safe out there, everybody. We love you. Be kind. Love one another. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome, long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.